All right, we are live. So, as you guys know, this is episode 1 of my podcast called Unearthed, and our guests here today are from the Pendleton, Oregon Paranormal Society. Um, do you guys want to start off by introducing yourself and telling everyone a little bit about yourself?
Good. Okay, I'm John. I'm the founder of P.O.P.S, or Pendleton, Oregon Paranormal Society. I
Mhm.
founded it in 2009 here in Pendleton.
Yeah.
And
I'm Jen. I'm actually the manager for P.O.P.S, Pendleton, Oregon Paranormal Society, and I'm the staff medium.
Okay, wonderful. So, how many members do you actually have in POPs?
About 6 active.
about 6 active.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good sized group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How I became who I am today was I used to live in a house not too far from here. And I was fixing it up and replacing the flooring and stuff. And I heard the word daddy. And there was some activity within the home itself that I wasn't really a believer at that time
Yeah.
until after I heard that and experienced things that I couldn't explain. And then I got a hold of her, and she came in and verified, yes, there is spirits there, and told me a lot of different things. One of the co-founders of the group, he is Native American.
Yeah.
He's the co-founder. He helped me cleanse the home and got rid of the negativity from within.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then, I've been actually more in tune to the spirits
Mm-hmm.
around. I can feel them and occasionally see them if they show themselves. And they don't really interact with me as much as a lot of spirits do,
Yeah.
but I know they're around.
Yeah, you can kind of feel them, can't you, when they're around? It's almost like when a person is standing next to you, a living person, you can sense that they're there. And it's the same with the dead, kind of, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's had to learn how to deal with that because I am a medium. And
Mm-hmm.
like all mediums, we tend to surround ourselves with dead energy and dead people. So at
Yeah.
any given time, we have anywhere between 6 to 8 dead people in our apartment at the same time.
Oh, wow.
A lot of them are relatives of both his and mine that have crossed over the years.
Yeah.
My mother, who passed away 5 years ago, she's a frequent resident.
Mm-hmm.
And then his stepfather, who passed away this summer, has been known to hang around as well.
Along with my
Okay.
sister Emma, that passed away from COVID as well.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Passed away from liver disease and kidney failure.
Yeah.
And they were pretty much back to back last year.
Yeah, about 6 weeks apart.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That was close.
Yeah,
Uh,
his
Hi,
sister passed
everyone.
away during when we had the peak of Delta in this region of Oregon.
Yeah.
It was the Delta variant that got her, and we basically got told a week before she passed that she had COVID. She tested positive with showing symptoms, and then a week later, we get a call from her sister saying that she had passed at the
Wow.
emergency room. So, you know, COVID has pretty much hit everybody in this region here in Eastern Oregon. The community we live in is very small, less than 20,000 people. But yet
Wow.
we can drive, what is it, about 10 minutes outside of town and be free of any and all city lights, surrounded by darkness. But I was born a psychic medium.
Yeah.
My earliest experience was when I was 4. My dad was in the military. We He was stationed in Jacksonville, Florida, at the naval base there. And the house that we lived in had a demonic entity in it. And
Oh,
so for
wow.
4 years, I had to put up with that thing. It mainly went after my mother, not me, because my guides were telling me, don't give in, don't start screaming and crying because you're going to feed it. It's going to want that negative energy coming off of you.
Yeah.
And after my mom had done a stint in rehab and I had spent the summer in foster care, when we were finally reunited at home, it started its process trying to terrorize me. And I'm 8 years old at the time, and I told it to F off because I was just not able to deal with it.
Yeah.
So, my childhood is not that great, but I know the next base that we were stationed at outside of Memphis, Tennessee, used to be an air base during World War II.
Wow.
And I was drawing pictures. I kept seeing images from the past. My parents just thought I was crazy, so they made things worse until I mentioned it to my dad, and it was in front of his commanding officer about seeing the most famous airplane from World War II, the Memphis Belle.
Wow.
At the airport, having taken off and almost hitting our house. And my dad basically kind of backhanded me in front of his CO and said, don't mind her, she just makes up lies for attention. And the CO jumped his case saying, no, she's right. The Memphis Belle did take off from here. You're living at the end of the frickin' runway that used to be there.
Wow.
So, yeah, my dad had to eat some crow, but what was funny was I remember seeing it at one of the old hangars that was built after World War II. Yep. In Memphis, their museum, Mud Island, they failed to take care of the Memphis Belle properly, the bomber, and it fallen into disrepair. So in 2007, when they moved it, they put it there in the old hangar while waiting transport to take it to the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. And I had saw them moving it. So again, that's the psychic ability. When my parents split up and we moved to Cincinnati, the first apartment my mom and I were in, a drug dealer had been shot and killed in my room. And he was a very active ghost. If you did not have air freshener in the bathroom, he would tear apart the bathroom.
Oh, gosh.
And he did that one night. I heard it, and I'm just like, no. Who moved the air freshener out of the bathroom? We ended up leaving that apartment because the activity it got bad. It got really bad. And we just couldn't handle it anymore. We lived someplace else for 6 months, but we later moved back to that complex, but in a different spot. And this apartment complex really did not have the best history. It's like, okay, now we're in the building next to the pool where a girl was murdered.
Oh, wow. So it seemed to follow you.
Yeah. And I'm just like, because I remember telling my mom's twin sister about it. I'm like, why? And I had to put up seeing that girl every night. Wanted me to help her and stuff, but I really did not understand how. It took a real long time to be able to hone my abilities and use them. The gift actually runs on my dad's side of the family. So it got passed to me, and I eventually learned how to control it, how to use it. When I lived in California, I had an incident where we had a 4.1 earthquake, which is no big deal for California, especially for Los Angeles. But unfortunately, the place that I worked for, they had a big shelving unit that was supposed to be attached to the studs in the wall by California building code. It wasn't. It moved and knocked the ladder out from underneath me when the earthquake hit, and I fell 12 feet onto hard cement. The injuries were just massive, but I did survive them. But I was legally dead for 9 minutes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And when they were about to call it, my heart started beating again. And then
9 minutes is a long time.
Yeah. They typically will not do CPR past 9 minutes. 9 minutes is the limit because of brain damage.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, which is understandable. It kind of shocked them when my heart started beating again. And I do remember telling the doctor, those freaking paddles hurt.
So when you died before you came back, did you have any experience of being on the other side? Or do you just remember it being black? You did?
Nope, I actually met my great uncle, the last medium in the family.
Yeah.
Who was there. He did make it quite clear, you know what, this is just temporary, but we need to teach you a few things because you're going to need to learn this since I'm not there anymore to help you.
Yeah.
It did turn out what he taught me was helpful because when I returned to my hometown of Richmond, Indiana, a couple of years after being there, we ran into a situation with a home. I worked for the housing authority, and it was a historical home that we were trying to restore so we could sell it.
Yeah.
The last construction crew left. They left all their freaking tools and would not come back.
Yeah.
They had issues with, they were saying, well, we were hearing scratching in the walls, disembodied smells, stuff was moving around, faucets were turning on, and the power tools would turn on and off. And I think my first instinct is not to say, okay, it's paranormal. No, let's look at the logical. It's an old home. It had been empty for 20 years, and it was built back in 1852. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay. Me and my boss go in. She gets about 3 feet in, and she comes under a psychic attack, and it was so strong she was down on the floor. I go to try to help her, and it felt like a roller coaster, but I got thrown 25 feet. And then I saw the demonic entity.
Wow.
And I remember what my great uncle had taught me, used that to fight it off, dragged my boss out of the home. And as we were going down the steps, the door slammed behind us.
Yeah.
And I remember her looking at me going, what the F was that?
Do you think that it knew that you were a threat to it, and that's why it did that? Yeah.
Yep. Because I made some phone calls. I went back with a full coven of 12 powwow witches.
Yep.
And that thing about pulled the house down on top of me during the exorcism of the home. But afterwards, the negative energy, it went away. The house was able to be fixed up, sold. There are still reports of activity, but it's livable. It's like, okay, occasionally a door's going to open on its own, or you might walk into the kitchen in the morning, all your cabinets are open. Nothing major, just more of an annoyance. But my hometown is actually considered one of the most haunted places in the state of Indiana. And Richmond, Indiana, you could not throw a stick and not hit a house that's at least 100 years old.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of stories about Indiana.
Yeah, Indiana has a lot of activity. So does Ohio, and I'm getting reports that something's going on in and around the Cleveland, Ohio area. And I've noticed that with Dead Files, their current season, they've had a lot of cases in and around the Cleveland area. And so that's making me think something's up.
Yeah, it's ironic because that was one of my questions for you guys today that I'd written down was, do you guys think that there has been some kind of an increase in hauntings and activity in the last however many years?
For us,
quite a bit, yeah.
We've noticed the amount of calls that we're getting, the amount of entities we've run across. We've also run across more Native American entities.
Yeah. Last year we were doing an investigation over at the Pilot Rock Schoolhouse, and the activity within that schoolhouse has increased. And
Yeah.
you're the one that actually saw one of the videos of that door opening. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's on YouTube.
Yep.
And of course, nobody's there. Everybody's gone and everything. And just seeing that just open by itself is unexplainable. And I looked at all the different cameras, and you don't see nobody in there.
Well, that was the other thing when you tagged that video, and I went over and I watched it, and I said, was there anyone there? If once the door opens, a few seconds later you see a shadow of like something walking past. Yeah.
Yeah, John.
Mm.
And I know exactly who it is.
Okay, when you brought that up and you saw that shadow figure,
Mm-hmm.
all right, and that other video with my buddy Sean being under with the blindfold and the headphones, we learned that from Scott Porter when he was down here October of 2000.
It was before the pandemic, so 2019.
Yeah, 2019 he came back down, and we were in the underground tours down here with him and his girlfriend Stephanie Brooke. He taught us different techniques of doing paranormals using K2s, different like phasma boxes or the other devices to hear the spirits. We use the phasma box because we get more of a better response out of it than other equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And we were going, okay, let's try something new to see if we get more responses, And that's where you saw Sean blindfolded with the headphones.
Yep.
And when he said fire, school, bathroom, that's when I saw the shadow.
Yeah.
The thing about it is, she saw the school teacher, is what he's called.
My first visit to this particular schoolhouse, I was in one of the rooms by myself, just trying to get a feel of it because there was just so much activity. It was kind of a little overwhelming, and I'm trying to sort it out. And I'm sitting there, and it's broad daylight, and I had the feeling I was being watched. I turned around, and I see a shadow figure, very tall, very large shadow figure, move. And this sucker moved quick. And I watched it, and I'm like, okay, shadow figure, middle of the day, not a good sign.
No.
Yeah. And it ended up being, I actually had to corner this entity to be able to talk to him. Because he would always try psychic attack, and actually that was caught by DW last year. And I actually fought off the psychic attack. In fact, the last time we passed by that schoolhouse, because I'm a photographer on the side and I was trying to get some pictures of the mountains, I did not have, this is actually, it's a carved deal of the Buddha, but it's black obsidian. And it's been blessed by Buddhist monks, so it's actually very grounding, very protective. I did not have it on. And about half a mile from that school, I felt sick. I literally felt like I was going to hurl. It felt like I had been in a car accident. When I was 6, my mom and I got hit by a drunk driver, and my stomach got torn. And it felt like that. And I just wanted to throw up so bad. But that told me that the aura of that schoolhouse had grown stronger.
Wow.
This entity, what I got, he wasn't a school teacher per se. He was more like the janitor, the caretaker.
Yep.
And he was a serial killer.
Yeah, when we were doing like a session, we kept, so what happened to you kids? And we kept getting orderly for the phasma box every single time. We go, who's the guy that's here? He's the orderly. every single time. So it kind of coincides of a janitor or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I did get, he was a serial killer. He preyed upon Native American girls. And because of the racial history of the area where we're at, you know, the whole cowboys versus Indians thing, yes, Hollywood does a romanticized view, but the reality is it was much uglier.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, school officials knew what he was doing, but as long as he didn't touch a white kid, they didn't care.
Yeah, unfortunately, it went on too often. Yeah.
The owner of the schoolhouse, actually, when they tore some of the side of one of the bathrooms down to try to fix it up and whatnot, they found kids' clothing within the inside of the wall. Not the one where the window is, but on the inside. And they were actually in the wall itself.
It was one jacket and a pair of underwear, long underwear.
When you kept getting fire through the spirit box or the whatever it was that you were using, did that kind of coincide with part of the story you'd heard about the schoolhouse?
Yes.
Yes. I work for a social services agency here, and one of my clients, she was almost 100 years old, but she had gone to that school. And when she was a little girl, she remembers that they had a flue fire. The school was heated by wood stoves.
Yeah.
And a flue fire would have been common. It damaged the roof and the shared wall between the classroom and one of the bathrooms.
Oh.
So this, because of the way they built the schoolhouse, this particular area would have been unusable.
Yeah.
And so the class that was there was moved to a nearby church.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time we got fire, we kept really, okay, it was a flue fire. And even in the attic, there are singed timbers.
And believe it or not, one of my live feeds was at that in one of the attic, in the attic itself. And you see the old part of the roof that's still there. And you see the beams they're using for the new roof.
Yeah.
But also, if you watch and listen very carefully, you do hear a big bang in it, and what sounds like pitter patter of feet up in the attic.
Oh wow!
And we didn't actually hear it at the time when we were up there. So one of our members, his husband, went up with another friend, took a photo, and caught a mist, a blue and white mist up there.
Wow.
And there's no way for any light source up there in the attic.
Jeez.
Yeah. So that's why a lot of times when we're getting fire, it's in reference to the flue fire.
To that fire.
Yeah. And the roof line doesn't match up anymore because of the repairs that were done. We have found some evidence that that church that was nearby, which was unusually large for such a small town. I mean, you're talking less than 500 permanent residents.
Yeah.
It burned down. And when we were talking with a couple of historians, they said what's really weird about Pilot Rock is that there's a huge chunk of history for that particular town missing from the 1920s. It's like we go up to 1922, and then all of a sudden we don't get any more history until about World War II, about the mid-30s when World War II broke out in Europe. And I'm like, that's about a 15-year gap.
That's huge.
Yeah. And what I ended up seeing, because I went to the lot where the original church was, there's a new church on there. I saw the old church, and I saw it burn down with the kids inside from the Pilot Rock Schoolhouse that were in the class, in the damaged classroom.
Yeah.
And I also saw them putting the bodies in a mass grave.
Oh, that's tragic.
Yeah. But
when you hear about, like, I know that there was a lot in the media a few months back about mass graves around the US, probably around the same eras of the Native American peoples and things. Makes you wonder if it was kind of like tied into that kind of history, having a 15-year gap where like the records have just been taken and mysteriously disappeared, you know? So,
Yeah, and we did find in some of the photos, surviving photos of the children that went there, there were some Native American children that did go.
yeah,
Not a lot.
not a lot.
And
Okay.
we actually saw the video where Sean was actually, when my mom was actually, which is
You mean when you did the roll call? Is
Yeah.
that what you're trying to say?
yeah, when we did
Yeah.
the roll call, we got responses from the spirits or children that still linger within the school. And
Yeah.
she did do a walkthrough one night by herself with nobody there. And we did it live. Unfortunately, I recorded it a different way, which didn't go on YouTube, so I had to record it a different way. But she was picking up at least 30 children still there. And the school teacher, a woman in white,
And then the Skinwalker.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah, Skinwalkers are always associated with Native American history and legend. They are essentially evil witches.
Okay.
And in this case, I got that he was human. He was a dark witch, but he was murdering children and eating them to gain power. The tribe found out about it and banished him, but he did not survive the winter. The winters here, because we're in a mountainous region, can get very, very harsh. And he died where essentially this schoolhouse is. So that's why he's there. And I remember describing how he likes to show himself in animal form as this big, huge spider that you see crawling around on the floor. And it freaked out one of our team members, Lisa, her husband, Buddy. It freaked him out because he's seen it. When he's been in that schoolhouse by himself, he has seen a dark shadow spider-like thing running around on the floor. And it really freaked him out when I said, by the way, this thing's not just tied here. It goes all over the freaking town. And children tend to have prolonged issue with night terrors up until about the preteens. Our team member Lisa is a mother.
Yep.
And she admitted her children, the night terrors lasted up until they were about 10.
Does that kind of tie in? I saw the house investigation you went to because, you know, they were having issues at a house. And you were standing out the front and speaking about some shadow figures and night terrors and that with the kids. Do you think that may have been contributing to that?
In their case, they had really bad EMF issues. The high-powered lines are not grounded properly. You can actually stand in front of their house and you can hear those lines buzzing. You're not supposed to hear them buzz like that.
No.
It has damaged the electrical system of their home. And the EMF energy is contributing it. But at the same time, you have these lost shadow figures that are feeding off of this energy.
Yep.
And they did have a roommate who was a telepath. And I have a real thing against telepaths. They don't understand. They may think they're reading somebody else's mind and talking to that person when you may be talking to a dead person.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, every time I've come across telepaths, I've seen lots of shadow figures following them around. Because when the person moved out, the activity went down. And it went down to what would be considered just normal EMF-induced paranormal activity. Because we tested a couple of their plugs, and it almost fried our the deal that we use to check see if the house is grounded.
Yeah.
And it almost fried it. So I told you need to get new wiring, but in the meantime, you're going to need to sage consistently.
But we did hear a disembodied voice as well during the investigation. And Lisa and I both said, "Did you guys hear that?" And Buddy's like, "No, we didn't hear it. It was probably you speaking, Lisa." And Lisa goes, "Nobody's going to be like a buddy." So,
that's one thing I find. Like, I've kind of seen spirits since I was little, and I wouldn't call myself a medium, but I've had a lot of freaky coincidences and experience throughout my life. But you could be out somewhere and you can hear something or you can see something and you'd be like, oh my God, and get startled because you've seen a shadow figure or someone standing right next to you, and people think you're crazy. They think you're absolutely crazy.
Yeah, people thought, in fact, some people still think I'm crazy, but we're also in an area where the Oregon Trail came through. The main highway, which is like pretty much right on our doorstep, does follow one of the trails, but the main trail actually went through town. We're up on a hill above the city center, or the area that's known as the Flats, because it's all flat. Essentially, Pendleton is a giant box canyon, so you're either on a hill or you're on the flats, and we're on a hill. But mainly the Oregon Trail followed the Umatilla River. And back in 2009, because he lived near the river, and so did I lived on the other end of the neighborhood where a Little League park exists and where there was the main campground for the pioneers, where they would cross the Umatilla.
Yep.
I moved there in the spring, and in April, I fell asleep on the couch. I had the windows open. I could hear the river. It was nice and cool. And all of a sudden, I'm hearing horses and what sounds like wagons, and I'm hearing oxen and all this noise. And I'm like, what? And I realized, oh, it's Residual. I'm on the Oregon Trail, and roll over and go back to sleep because there's nothing I can do about it. But we have heard from other people who live in that area similar incidences of hearing what sounds like a wagon going through their living room or bedroom and stuff. And that particular neighborhood, it's named after the main school there, which is called Washington. Mm-hmm. The Washington neighborhood, it seems to be very, very ripe with that residual activity. Once you get more into the city center, you're going to run into different activity, especially in the downtown area. Mm-hmm. I will not go to the downtown area after dark.
And I still can't believe Scott Porter and Doogie and all them from Most Haunted Towns or WC came to Pendleton.
Tennessee Wraith Chasers.
They actually contacted our group about some locations, and we were the only group that actually told them some locations here in Pendleton to investigate.
Yep.
We have a total of about 4 or 5 different other groups around, but everybody knows us because we want to be there to help them. We want to get the right evidence they need, The other groups did the same, but a different way. And when they did the underground and found a lot of stuff, and they came back, I did actually catch on my recorder a Chinese guy speaking Chinese, but translated to your 4. And that was down in the ice cream parlor area.
Yeah. Back during the 1880s, there were some anti-Chinese laws.
Yeah.
Basically, what were called sundowner laws. They weren't really allowed out on the city streets after sundown, which is why we have the Pendleton Underground. It was all built by Chinese all these tunnels and places to live. There was one, he even had a laundry set up and a
They
wash.
recently opened that area.
Well, John, it was closed when you did it because of the fire.
Yeah.
On the other side.
But it was open when we went down there.
Yeah, but the Chinese laundry and bathhouse, essentially, for the cowboys. They can get their stuff cleaned and wash themselves, and then go back up street side and go to all the bars and brothels. Pendleton was essentially the entertainment town for for Northeast Oregon, and we had a mixture of cowboys, because this is cattle country, ranch hands, again for the ranchers, and wheat farms as well, and then miners, which actually came up from the mining district, which is just it's east of here over the mountains. But we would get the miners, the cowboys, railroad workers, it was just a big party town for a long time. And actually, in a way, Pendleton is still holding on to that past.
Yeah.
And it's also what's making me go, all right, you know what? Enough with the party town, because you're ignoring some of the problems, the social, economic problems in this town. I'm like, that's it. I'm leaving. I've had enough dealing with the dead who still want to party, like the prostitute who sits in one of the windows and throws buttons at guys that she likes. She threw one at him.
So
Yeah,
is
about that.
this the reason that you don't like to go down there after dark? Is because of the energy and all the people that are still hanging around after death?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's too much. There's really way too many dead to be hanging around in that area. And Pendleton tries to play it off. Oh, we didn't have a lot of deaths and blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, first off, you did have problems with shootings, because I actually saw a duel take place.
What about the recording from the Pioneer Park that used to be a cemetery?
Yeah, there was the shooting. But John, that's also close to the downtown area too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But we're also forgetting the prostitutes, the syphilis, because I've seen a couple of prostitutes in the downtown area that look like they have advanced syphilis, and they're kind of decaying. Yeah. It's not something I want to see, because there's some really good restaurants on the Main Street area, but it never fails. I'll walk out and then I see that, and it's like, okay.
That just ruined it for me. Yeah.
And then there are some negative entities, and this one is actually known to even the historian at the local museum, Hamley's, which is very famous around here for having been originally a saddle store, and then it expanded to being like a clothing store, and it's been in operation for over 100 years. It has changed hands a few times. Currently, the tribe owns it, and they have added on a restaurant, bar and restaurant type deal. They have an event area that you can rent called the Slick Fork.
I think so.
Slick Fork Saloon. Again, the area is set up like the Old West, and the bar is pretty much a refurb replication of what the Old West bars would look like.
Yep.
The company he worked for at that time, when they had their Christmas party there, we were there, and all of a sudden I felt very cold, and I felt this very negative presence walk behind me, but as it walked behind me, it gently brushed the tops of my shoulders. And I turned to him and said, okay, time to go. And that, the second year that they had the Christmas party there, I sat in a different area, but sure enough, I saw this one. I saw it again. And I'm like, that's it. Time to go. Time to go. And as I was trying to leave, it actually attacked me. I had a hard time breathing. And it's like, really? I was able to pick up that this one was also a serial killer at one point.
My mom told me a story that people report seeing a woman or an apparition on top of the old buildings of Main Street. Supposedly, there was somebody that murdered a girl and spread her body parts on top of the old buildings or within the walls of it.
Wow.
And this is rumored to be true, but trying to find the history is kind of hard to find because, not a lot of people would actually share that info.
Well, it's more to do with the view of prostitutes, that they were less than human. They were considered garbage, and so there was no record of them. A lot of times these prostitutes would be married in what would be called a potter's field, which is a cemetery for your non-desirables. And Pendleton has tried to say, oh no, we didn't have that. It's like, yeah, you did. Every town did. Even my hometown did.
Now, Walla Walla does have a grave site for the madam or the lady of the house. They recognize they're dead, and they would actually have little placards right beside the headstones of how they died, who they were, and why they are getting recognized. They also had another one farther down from one that people call the witches' graves, because it looks like those bumps or deals for where you park your car. It's all concrete.
It's a tomb.
But it's a tomb because of grave robberies back then. Well, right down from there was a headstone saying a name was assassinated. And they actually recognized that person. And it's weird how they're having these different plaques of who they were, who they worked for. They give you the history of those people because they're well known.
They're honoring the prostitutes from their red light district, which, John, I could take you to where their red light district is, because my late mother used to see a counselor whose office was in the old red light district.
But you come to Pendleton, you go to the cemetery here, and there's no nothing.
There is no mention of it. And the Pendleton Underground, which also owns what used to be a brothel, it completely left it the way it was when the madam and her girls moved out of it, when they were forced out of Pendleton. But they give a very romanticized view and make it seem like the prostitutes, it was a glorious life. No, it wasn't. Even the historians that run the museum say, no, it was dangerous.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It was, a lot of times, a lot of them would die from drug addiction, venereal diseases, you know, syphilis being the most common one. They would get beaten up, sometimes even killed. So whereas they get this very glorious, they're just party girls type, the reality is, no, it wasn't. It was dangerous work. A lot of these women that went into prostitution did it because they had no choice. Pendleton is very much an agrarian society, very much farming. Everything revolves around farming. That is the big industry here. My hometown back in Indiana is an industrialized society. We have a lot of factories. So they're women who, if the husband could no longer work due to death or disability, they could go work at a factory, or they entered or sent like the oldest daughter into what would be called service, which would be working for the wealthy families as a housekeeper.
Yeah.
Had more options. Not out here. It was either you lost the man, well, you have no choice. Now you got to go make your living laying on your back. in a lot of ways, Pendleton still has a very old view, still has a very misogynistic view of women, which, I've had issues with that. And, it's like, okay, well, you're either a prostitute or you're a baby maker.
Yep.
And it's like, no, Pendleton, it's time to grow up.
But they have actually had a lot more increase of the paranormal.
Yeah.
Since they actually opened the underground.
Well, they opened it back in the 90s, but, John, some of the activity, it's not just limited to the underground.
It's actually spread.
John, we've had everybody in this region since 2019. We have seen an increase.
Yep.
To the point that it's kind of disturbing, some of the activity that we're running across. It used to be in this area, we would get reports of Bigfoot. We've had Bigfoot around here. We've had people who have spotted it.
Yep.
It's something new, and that used to be the only thing. But now we're running more into people having issues with ghosts. Some of them are pretty benign. Most of them are pretty benign. But what's bothered me has been the increase in the negative entities. That was pretty rare, but now it's getting pretty common. We've run into territorial.
I often wonder whether it's actually because I know that the paranormal community on YouTube and in the real world, people who aren't on YouTube but do ghost hunting, I think that there's so many more people getting involved in the community now, and as a collective consciousness, opening themselves up to more. So it kind of makes you question too whether that has a foothold in things opening up or whether it's something else. But there's definitely something going on that's I guess, opening up more activity. But even you saying, like, with the negative entities and that, I've never experienced a demonic entity. I have seen a lot of shadow figures though, and more in the last couple of years than I've ever experienced. So
I mean, I've only run into 3 that were true demonic entities. And then a 4th negative entity. Well, this is besides the Skinwalker at the Pilot Rock Schoolhouse. This one, it's over the mountains outside of the main town called LeGrand. And basically, the English translation is two-faced demon. I could not say the Native American word for it to save my life.
I can't either because, but I sent it to one of my members, or the founder of P.O.P.S, which is the Native American one, to him. And then he goes, okay, send it to my uncle. So I sent it to his uncle and brought it up about it. He goes, yeah, you need to do tobacco tie.
For protection. And then what makes this one particular case unique is that there are some severe mental health issues in the home, both from the mother and her son. Back in July, her son, I could tell he is schizophrenic. There were some issues with a little bit of psychosis. And she's really pushing for an exorcism. But I told her mentally he would not be able to do it. And this is what you need to do. I give clients homework. I told her, you need to get him into psychiatric treatment. He needs to be put back on meds. He needs to be working with a counselor. Because right now, he would not mentally not survive it. And I even told her the same thing. you need to get into counseling, you need to work with a psychotherapist, and you're going to need to work with a professional organizer because her home, it's a hoarding situation. And I said, we can cleanse the home until your hoard is taken care of. I saw them again a couple of weeks ago. Her son has deteriorated. When I was talking with her, and I talked to her outside the home, I could not go into it.
Yeah. I'll be right back. She'll be talking. I got to find out what my mom wants.
And go into the bedroom.
Okay.
Yes, mother. But when I was... When I first walked up to the home, the front door opened on its own, and there was nobody in that part of the house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I already knew what was in there, and it's like, he's inviting me to come in, and I'm like, nope, I know this game, and I talked with her outside. She's still wanting the exorcism. She's saying, oh, yeah, we need it. The house, I could smell human excrement coming from the home because the door was open, and I have the nose of a bloodhound. And as I was talking with her, her son comes out wearing nothing but a jacket and holding a beer. He was naked.
Oh.
And that was not something I really wanted to see, was a 28-year-old man butt naked. But what I saw was, one, I could tell he had not bathed in quite some time because I can smell the body odor. His hair was matted. He looked very malnourished, like he was not eating consistently. And he was covered in cigarette burns, mostly focused around the groin area. And these were pretty bad burns. And some of them looked infected. He didn't even acknowledge my presence, let alone his mother. And he was mumbling incoherently. And I do have experience dealing with people with mental health issues.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, he is full blown in psychosis at this point. He's not competent. And when I asked her, why have you not taken him to the hospital? Well, I can't force him. I go, but you have guardianship over him. By law, you can petition the court and force him in. But he needs exorcism. He really needs exorcism. And I even tried to tell her, and this is something a lot of people don't understand, is that a person who has a severe attachment or is possessed, they have to be able to give consent for the exorcism.
Yeah.
If they are not able to give consent, the exorcism will not work. There's also legal ramifications because exorcisms are so taxing both mentally and physically that if something were to happen, let's say he died during the exorcism, in this state, the people who did it and were part of it could be charged with homicide.
Yeah, with murder. Yeah.
Yep. And kidnapping and torture. They would spend the rest of their lives in prison. And this is something that the mom's not understanding. And it actually caused me to get into a fight with our other medium, which is why P.O.P.S had to temporarily shut down, because I am a mandatory reporter by United States federal law and by the state of Oregon state law, because I'm a case manager for homeless people. I help homeless people, mainly homeless veterans, get back into housing. So I'm a mandatory reporter. I called DHS, or Department of Human Services, Adult Protective Services, the following Monday and reported what I saw and told them everything, and even told them about the other medium who is also pushing for this exorcism, and found out she's been working with them ever since July. And I'm like, but you saw the decline. You saw the person's decline, and you didn't do anything. And they actually, her and one of our other members went behind our backs and is trying to arrange for the exorcism with the tribe because the entity itself is Native American in origin, which means that it's going to have to be the Native American medicine man to remove that attachment.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Bringing anyone from the church, in fact, the client herself is Catholic, is just going to piss it off because the tribe has a very low view of the Catholic Church.
Yep.
And they have every reason to be mad because of what those priests and nuns did to their children.
Well, anyways, to make the long story short, when they had a priest come in and do some prayers and stuff, the activity over there at her place has increased and got worse than what it was the last time we were there.
But because of both her, because I can tell even she has mental health issues, pretty severe, possibly a dissociative disorder, because she admits losing about 6 hours of time. And that immediately put off a red flag in my head. It's like, oh, crap. Until the mental health issues are resolved, we can't move forward to remove that entity.
Yeah, you got to take care of their health before you can go to the spiritual.
Yeah.
Definitely.
If you're not strong enough mentally and physically, you're not going to survive the ritual because, like when I did the exorcism of the home, I mean, it took everything out of me. Yes, the house was cleansed and stuff, but I mean, it literally took everything I had to remove that particular demonic entity. So knowing what I have to go through, I know it's going to be worse for the actual person undergoing it.
I actually had I had someone tell me once about a house cleansing that they went into, and they said when they walked into the house, especially in specific rooms like the bedrooms, it was like walking through a really thick sludge, like a slime, because there was so much negative energy in there. And have you ever come across anything like that? Like when you've done house cleansing? It's just so thick. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like it's pushing me down.
Yeah.
Is what it feels heavy. I once tried to explain it to a person as it's like the gravity changed when you walked into like a particular room. Instead of having normal Earth gravity, you now have heavier gravity.
Yeah.
When my sister was alive, she was having activity in her home, and her son, which was younger at the time, was saying there was people in the bathroom, and every time he turned on the light, they were like, "Help me, I'm melting, I'm melting." So I was doing some investigations and stuff there with the co-founder and everything. Yeah. We caught a few EVPs. Some were kind of funny, saying he's hot. But it was weird having spirits say that. Some spirits do like to cuss a lot.
Yes, they do.
Oh my God. Some of the stuff we've gotten over the Phasma box.
But my co-founder was in the bedroom by himself. My sister was out in the kitchen with her son at the time because we're doing a little bit at a time, trying to get going and stuff. He goes, "I want to hear your voice." And a voice came after him, "Go away." And that wasn't his voice.
Wow.
Well, it kind of increased and stuff. We got a woman crying from there. She was in the closet. But this is where it gets interesting. We were trying to find the negative energy that was within the home. We finally asked the good spirits, if there's a negative spirit within this home, let us know by a sound or a sign. As soon as we asked that, we heard a big boom from right outside the door.
From where the
water tank is.
Wow.
So we went up there and opened it, and sure enough, this gray figure with yellowish eyes was kind of hunched over right by the hot water tank.
No, but you told me it also it smelled like roadkill.
Rotten flesh, sulfur, and
basically it smelled like a dead skunk that been sitting outside too long.
And I've somehow trapped it there. I say, in the power of Jesus Christ, I command you to stay here. And then I put some salt or something right in the way to kind of trap it.
You had some of my blessed salt.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I give her a call and say, hey, Jen, you need to come over here. We found it. Come and deal with it.
Yeah.
You know, like 5 minutes later, she comes in. I go, sis, take your son, head somewhere for a little bit. Let her deal with what's in here.
Mm. Let me ask. Oh, sorry, finish your story.
It took a couple hours.
Yeah.
And that rotten smell of sulfur and stuff faded away, and then it smelled like roses throughout the whole home.
Wow.
So that's how we know sometimes all that does actually work. You know, if it's done right and stuff, you will get that better smell of roses throughout the air.
Yeah, but even afterwards, she still had some activity.
But not as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have heard that from some priests after blessings, and you know when they what's it called, exercise the home or something, you'll get that sweet smell, that pleasant smell come through after. Yeah. I was going to ask you now. Demons have fascinated me, or negative entities, and not that I want to experience them or anything else, but I've always kind of wondered exactly what they are, whether, because you have your classic Bible demons, you have your shadow figures, your negative entities, things like that. And perhaps in some sense, there are many different entities. What's your experience in your travels so far with all of the different kind of negative entities, I'll say, that you come across?
Let's see. So I have run across Judeo-Christian demons from that particular area. That was definitely present in the house in my hometown because I did get the demon's name. It was Malik. And I was told that one, it's pretty high up in the hierarchy of demons, and they were surprised I was able to exorcise it, but I also told him it took everything I had, and at the same time, I swear he was going to bring the house down on top of me.
Yeah.
Which was even scarier because I was in the basement, where that's where the demon liked to hide out. And
they do, don't they?
Yeah, I had to start from the top and go down in terms of clearing the home, so it actually got trapped in the basement, and then that's where we began the process.
Yeah.
We have here run into the Native American entities, which is why we try to stay on good terms with the tribe and learning from them. And, you know, unfortunately, the Catholic Church and even the Protestant churches destroyed a lot of their history and their legends and their myths. But that's, to me, it's like, that's what I need. How else am I going to understand what these entities are?
Yes.
Now, my hometown of Richmond, Indiana, which is part of the Ohio River Valley system.
Yeah.
We had mound builders. So we have Native American burial mounds. And the ones in and around my hometown, and there are a lot, typically the ones that were excavated, they were found to be giants in the bottom, people that were 7 to 8 feet tall.
Wow.
Now, there's something unique in this area of what has been called the Ohio-Miami River Valley system. My hometown's part of it, and then when my parents split up, Cincinnati, Ohio is a part of it. But it seems to occur where burial mounds have been excavated or destroyed is what are called mud people. Basically, and I've seen this. Oh my God, this was so scary because I was only 17 at the time, is that you see these people rise up out of the ground. And I mean, they're giants. And you'll see quite a few of them. And they line up and they start marching through the forest or wherever it was. And where I was, it was in a campground at one of the state parks. And I see this and I see them start marching. And one of them sees me because I was leaning against a tree smoking a cigarette. And he turns to me and says, "You're not supposed to see this." I put that cigarette, go, okay, and went right back into me.
Bye.
My aunt had seen them. Her second husband was a park ranger, and they lived in the park. And about a quarter mile away, there had been a burial mound that had been excavated back during the 60s when the park was established.
Mm-hmm.
So she's seen them. A lot of people in and around my hometown has seen them because we have lost about a dozen burial mounds. My grandpa's place has one of the largest intact burial mounds. And my dad saw one. He saw one starting to do the march, but my dad refuses to really talk about it. He was drunk when he brought it up about seeing this 8-foot tall Native American. And I've talked to other people in and around my hometown. They've seen it. I say everywhere from between Indianapolis, Indiana to Dayton, Ohio, all the way down to the Ohio River, there are reports of mud people. So it's one of those things we don't have an explanation for. And because the Native American history has been lost,
yeah,
basically the church is trying to let's civilize the Native American in order to save them. It is, we have I can't turn to their mythology to figure out what's with these mud people,
Yeah.
So,
but it has to be tied in with the fact that they're disturbing these burial mounds too. I mean, if someone came and dug me up many years later without my permission, I think I'd be pretty, peed off as well for being disturbed.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I remember being part of the housing authority. We had a contractor bring in a Native American artifact that is known to be found only in burial mounds. And in talking to him, he told us about being at this place. The guy's doing work, and he has all these artifacts, and he's selling them. And he bought one because he was a little concerned, but brought it to us. Well, that's when we found out what he did. But because it's on private land, we could not get to it. And there were some people. Basically, Indiana was saying we could not go after this guy. But I remembered, wait a minute, federal law trumps state any day. And Native Americans, the reservations, are under federal protection. So I called my mom. I go, "Hey, Mom, can you give me the address for the Board of Trustees for the Miami tribe in Oklahoma?" Because my mom worked for the tribe here. She goes, let me look. Okay, here you go. Gave it to my boss. We called them. And so we had the Miami Indian tribe come out, and we put a stop to this guy. He actually ended up going to jail. He lost his house because it was part of reparations. Mm-hmm. Due to the damage done to the burial mound. Unfortunately, the rest of it did have to be excavated, but it was done by the state archaeological team. Yeah. And all of the stuff from the burial mound was given back to the Miami tribe. And then they reinterred the remains on their reservation. Yeah. So it was sad that had to happen, but it was like, it was the only way we could save it after the guy destroyed so much of it, and he was selling it on the black market.
Do they have some kind of a system in place now where they can identify and preserve the burial mounds?
Yes. They recently went through, updated the maps, and unfortunately, at one point, they put it on Facebook, but I contacted the admin for that group there in my hometown. I'm like, take it off, because we need to preserve these burial mounds, and they immediately took down the post.
Yeah.
But now there are a team of volunteers that will go out to double check and to make sure that the burial mounds stay intact. And the state of Indiana has kind of stepped up their protection and kind of put their finger on my hometown's nose, saying, we know you got rid of the hospital that was built on top of one, but you can't put the Home Depot there.
Yeah.
So there's plans to turn that lot into a park now as the best way to preserve the burial mound.
Yeah. Well, I've seen other ones too. Through other people's videos on YouTube, someone might be doing a cemetery wander or a wander through a town or something, and they've kind of preserved the mounds by putting them on land that can't be built on or can't be damaged in any way. So that's a good thing that they're preserving them. And thank you, Daniel.
Yeah. In fact, actually in the suburbs of Cincinnati, they do have a park where there are several burial mounds.
Mm-hmm.
Forget the name of the park, but I do know there is another one south of my hometown. It's a state recreation called Mounds Recreation State Park.
Yeah.
People think, oh, it's mounds because of the hills. It's like, no, those are burial mounds. These are some pretty huge burial mounds. And so people don't realize as they're hiking and enjoying the park, they're actually walking on the burial mounds.
Yeah, they're walking on graves, essentially.
But it was the best way to preserve them, because when they built Brookville Lake, they found all these burial mounds, and instead of incorporating it into part of the Brookville Reservoir, they decided to make it its own little state recreation. There's no camping, no overnight camping. It's day use only.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably the smartest idea, and those are some of the best preserved. I did hear they did some ground penetrating radar just to look at what's in the burial mounds without disturbing the burial mounds.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So when you guys go out and you investigate your locations and things, do you try and stay locally, or do you have plans of traveling further in time to come?
We've been working on that.
Yep.
We are in ways getting ready to move to Coos Bay,
which is on the Oregon coast, in southwestern Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
Really, paranormal groups in this region are not well received. Yeah. It's pretty common to be called a devil worshiper.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this town tries to pass itself off as, oh, we're a Christian community. Then I can see you doing anything but praying down at the bar.
Yeah. I live in a small town here in Australia.
I think we're moving to Coos Bay. We will be opening a group down there. It's going to be CBP, Coos Bay Paranormal.
Okay.
And we're going to continue trying to increase and kind of try to get group the Coos Bay Paranormal kind of statewide. So this way, it's in the work, but it's not going to happen overnight.
No, right now it's all dependent on if I'm able to get a state job that's open in that area. There is a position open with our Department of Human Services, and they did contact me recently. They're like, you do realize this means working out at the office? Do you have plans to relocate? It's like, as soon as I get a job, I'm relocating. I'm putting Pendleton in my rear view mirror. Mm-hmm. The main reason for me wanting to move to the other side of the state is Pendleton, Oregon is located in a desert. We're part of the Columbia Basin Plateau, which people think, oh, no, it's not a desert. It is considered a desert.
Yeah.
And the desert environment does not agree with me. I do have asthma and COPD. My mom was a 2.5 pack a day smoker. She smoked menthol cigarettes, and so that's damaged my lungs. And I have problems breathing out here.
Yeah.
Also, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to have a massive sinus infection and chronic nosebleeds because of the canola that they plant.
Yeah.
And canola is genetically modified, and I don't know what they modified it with, but I can't go anywhere near it. Mm-hmm. And when I'm near it, I get the sinus infections, I get the massive nosebleeds, and it's like I've had
canola is deadly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Canola is deadly.
Yeah. And this environment does not agree with me. And every time I've been on the coast, the chronic pain from my psoriatic arthritis will drop from a 9 down to a 3.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I can move better. I can breathe. Also, here in Pendleton, life still revolves around the bar. Hey, it's the weekend. Let's go get drunk. Let's go do something stupid, like get behind the wheel and cause everyone's insurance rates to jack up.
No. Besides that, we actually had quite a bit of shootings lately in the past month and a half, back to back.
Well, within a 6-month period, we had 3 shootings, which is unreal for this town of less than 20,000 people. And what was bad is 2 of the shootings were drug related, and then another one was a domestic violence issue.
Yeah.
And it's like that's it. I've had it.
Yeah.
And my mom and I tried to warn this community that things were going to get worse, where it was headed, because my mom and I saw this in Cincinnati. And that you're going to have increasing problems with homelessness, which our homelessness rate is now at 25% for the entire county, which that is very, very bad. Then we have increasing issues with drug and alcohol addiction, and no treatment centers for these people. The treatment centers we have
are in Portland.
Well, no, we do have some here in Pendleton, but it's going to take 2 years to get in. Because they're full.
God.
Yeah, we don't have enough.
Mm.
And, COVID did not help the economy here at all. And I think the only thing that's going to carry this community through is the wheat farms, especially with the war between Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah.
The main here is wheat, and we grow a crap load of wheat. But the last 2 years, the harvests have been terrible. And so our second big crop is potatoes. And so we've had the potatoes help carry us through, but it's like, right now we need the wheat.
The onions by Stanfield.
Yeah.
The onions and garlic.
Yeah, because every time I'm driving through that area, and all I smell is that onion. And I'm like, onion rings.
What's worse is a frozen food plant near the Columbia River. And one time they were making onion rings when I drove past them. You're making me hungry for onion rings.
Well, the good thing about it, if you do relocate, you can always change your name on your YouTube channel, and you don't have to start from scratch. You can just keep your same channel and just change your name. So
that's work we're going to plan on doing. This way they still follow our channel and actually, who's Faye? but we were going to have a video saying, hey, we're formerly known as P.O.P.S, now Coos Bay Paranormal. You know, let them know, hey, we didn't change. You know,
yep, we're still here.
This changed for our location. You know,
Yep.
But there are a lot of people reporting activities and stuff there in Coos Bay.
Yeah, and I actually helped a woman who I met on Facebook. There is a paranormal group there, and she was having activity and it was scaring her kids, so she had them come out. And their medium calls herself a rescue medium. And I'm like, I've never heard of that. Mediums are described by how they interact with the dead. You have the physical mediums, and the most famous physical medium is Amy Allen. You have empathic mediums, which feel the emotions.
Yep.
And then you have psychic mediums like Chip Coffey, and that is what I am, a psychic medium. And she said they put a salt ring around the home and the activity got worse. I'm looking at Coos Bay through Google Maps and I'm like, oh my God, this person's a moron. Coos Bay and its sister community, North Bend, and then their little sister, Charleston, which is where the fishing fleet is, sit on a giant ley line.
Ley line. I just had that in my head.
Yep. They sit on a giant ley line, and I'm like, I told her, you sit on a ley line. You can't put a salt ring around a property that sits on a ley line.
They're locking it in, wouldn't they?
Yeah, it traps the energy in, and it creates the whirlpool effect.
Yep.
So I told her how to remove the salt ring. And I told basically you're just going to need to have holy water, and you're going to have to go in the opposite direction that the medium did when she put in the salt ring. The water will wash away the salt.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, and then what? And I go, wait a month. Then get yourself some obsidian. Now, because this ley line runs from east to west, it runs out into the ocean. I said, go to the eastern edge of your property and bury obsidian about 6 inches under the soil and about a foot apart. And I said, it's basically what we're going to create is a wave break. Every harbor, every bay, they have wave breaks. The water can still move, but it hits those breaks and kind of slows down and tames out and will still flow through. And I told her that's what we're going to do, because that ley line is water-based, because there are 3 rivers that come together to form this bay. That's how I knew this was a water-based ley line. And she did that, and she said it's like night and day. The energy is so much better. It's calmer. They still have a little bit of activity, but not as bad. You know, most of it's livable. She says occasionally she'll walk into the kitchen and the kitchen cabinet will be open, or something up high she finds on the floor. You know, nothing major. It's all livable. She says it's almost like living with a cat. I go, I have 3 of them, so I understand.
I think that, like, sometimes people get into situations where they've got so much activity going on in their home, or there's a certain entity in their home that they're so scared to death that they jump on the first chance of help. With mediums, I think it pays off to kind of do a bit of research before you call someone out, just so they know what they're doing. Yeah.
And different mediums can handle different things. Like before this issue with the other medium in our group, who is an empathic medium, she was definitely the ideal one to handle children, because she's a mom and she's a grandmother, and she has that grandmother aura to her. So kids are going to flock to that. Whereas with me, they're going to run from me. You know, I'm the one you call in when you're dealing with the negative entities, like with school teacher. In fact, it was never put on YouTube, but they did see this on video. when that school teacher attacked our empathic medium and I realized what he was doing, they watched me march down the hallway towards where he likes to hang out, and I called him an asshole.
Actually, it was caught live, but she wasn't caught on it. One of the channels, one of the videos on the channel, you actually do, it's an edited part where he gets under attack. You do see a shadow. After that, on the live feed is when you actually see her go past the camera down that hallway. And then she vanishes in the darkness. So, but you can still hear her yelling and screaming, "Leave her the F alone, back the F up," just going off. You know, and you can go live.
I think I remember watching part of the video where I think you, Jen, was sitting there and you were talking to the camera, and the RAM pod kept going off, and you're like, "Yep, that teacher's scared of me. They're not going to come near me." I'm sure it was you.
Yeah. Yeah, what's interesting with this school teacher, yes, he attacks me because he sees me as a threat, but he does not like redheads. He was murdered by a redhead, a redheaded woman who had kids that went to the school. She put poison hemlock in his coffee. And poison hemlock, which it's an invasive weed out here, but it does kill, and it causes really, really bad stomach pains because of where it affects, and it will kill a person. But back when he died, which I think was in the mid-40s, they would not have tested for it. So she got away with it, but at the same time, I caught an image of her standing over him going, "I know what you did, and you're a effing monster, and you deserve to die." And she walks out and leaves him to die. Basically, a very painful death. And he has an issue with redheads. If redheads come in, he's more likely to attack them.
Yeah.
And when I realized this is why he's going after redheads, it's like, okay, you were killed by a Scottish woman, and my late grandmother was full-blooded Scottish. Let's hang up.
Still talking about the schoolhouse, I brought my co-founder in because the other members wouldn't be able to show up until later.
Yeah.
I took him there to let him take a walk around, get the feel of it, you know. He got the feel of the outside, you know, and we were immediately being followed by none other than the Skinwalker. And this is the thing, we actually heard him behind us. And we had our walkie-talkies on, and my mom keys up and goes, "You guys are being followed out there." We go, "We know, we just heard something rustle behind us on the sidewalk." Well, we took him inside the home, or the schoolhouse, let him see more of the school and get the feel of it. And this was all before we did the night investigation, but that didn't turn out the way we wanted it, but that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
But he did take a walk through. He started off in the family room where you saw the Sean under saying school, bathroom, fire.
Yeah.
That's when I saw that school teacher in the hallway to my left. And I was looking dead on with him. Unfortunately, I didn't have a camera pointing at me, so you couldn't see it. So
yeah,
I showed him the room where I was and had a teddy bear right behind my buddy Sean. You saw Sean. You saw the door beside him on the right.
Yep.
He said it felt heavy, but it felt like there was something off about it. And then I told him about it. He goes, "That would explain why it feels that heaviness and sadness and depression."
Yep.
They called that the punishing room. Then I took him down, farther down, and then he goes, "I noticed the change of it back here." And that's more into the newer section in the far back where he felt that heaviness, like he was being told to leave.
Yeah.
Well, when he got home after the incident, he sent me a photo of his sunroof, and there was 3 marks on top. And he goes, "This is what I found when I got home." I go, "That's the Skinwalker." He goes, "Sage your guys' self. That's a big
Jeez.
Now, I have another member. He was the one that was blindfolded with the headphones. He actually went under the year before to kind of check it out and stuff, and it was caught live on one of the videos of the Skinwalker kind of coming towards him, but staying far back. And one of his girlfriend is Native American, saw that and immediately turned off the video. Says, "No."
Yeah, because Native Americans, part of their belief system is that they are not supposed to lay eyes on a Skinwalker. If they do, that means the Skinwalker will attack them and come for them.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah, and the fact that she recognized it without having any knowledge of my walkthrough and identifying it, and then what Jerry ran into confirmed my findings that this was a Skinwalker. And every time I've been at that schoolhouse, the Skinwalker kind of goes into hiding with me.
So it really doesn't interact with anybody, but when the co-founder, Native American, shows up, boom, he's right there wanting action.
Yep.
Wow,
so
okay.
Do a little test to figure out, okay, we know it's here, but where is he hiding? And to go more depth. And I think the reason why he was caught on video when Sean was underneath the school is because who he's with. And the Skinwalker sensed that energy off of him. So.
Yeah. Well, and essentially he did pick up that the Skinwalker hides out in the crawl space of the school, which is what I kept picking up. I know the school teacher, he hangs out in the addition where they put in 2 more bathrooms and a 4th classroom, which was added on during World War II when the lumber mill there kind of went into overdrive to supply lumber for the war effort. So I know he's back in there. And then the woman in white, God, she's a fun one to deal with because you don't know if she's going to be insane or sane. She's all Yeah, I got that she was most likely bipolar in life.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. I noticed one of the questions about Bigfoot. I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have that up. I'm reading, and I see that about Bigfoot and stuff.
Yep.
I may have seen Bigfoot from a far, far distance when I was up at Jubilee Lake years ago. It was big, brown, and it was in the brushes going towards the trees. But I only saw from here up, nothing below. But it was like, oh, that's probably a big bird or something. But it finally dawned on me, wait a minute. That was upright. What the heck? Did I actually see Bigfoot from a far distance? Nope, I didn't. I was driving at the time.
Yeah, well, and the bears around here are not brown. They're black.
Yeah.
We have black bears.
So there's a big difference. I had this conversation the other day with another paranormal fellow, actually, and we were talking about how some form of Bigfoot has been seen all over the world. I mean, here in Australia, we call them yowies, and you see them like in different parts of the national parks and things. Well, some people do. But it's funny that, I mean, people have found bits of hair and maybe little bits where they might have been hanging out, but you never find a body of a Bigfoot. So it kind of makes you wonder whether it's some kind of an alien being or something else, or whether they're just really good at where they keep, the body.
You may have the answer.
Well, no, I have hypothesized that Bigfoot is a shapeshifter because of the fact that we've never been able to find any remains of the Bigfoot, and that a lot of times when people see them, they go chasing after them only to find like a deer or an elk. And then no other sign of Bigfoot. So, and also from what we've been able to get from some of the Native American legends, especially around here, they refer to him essentially as the old man in the mountains, but the legends are that he shapeshifts. So that's why I kind of had me start thinking, well, wait a minute, maybe Bigfoot is a shapeshifter. Maybe this is why we're not finding any remains or any real solid evidence, because even though the Blue Mountains, that's the name for our mountain range, is somewhat isolated, there's enough people going up in there that remains of a Bigfoot would have been found.
Especially of course.
Where the sightings are. I think the only mountain range we have, or actually two mountain, no, make that three. We have three that are very isolated, are going to be the Wallowa Mountains, which run up from here in Oregon up into Washington. We've been up there. We've seen the Wallowas. The Strawberry Mountains, which are to the south of here in Grant County near the town of John Day. Now, they had a big fire back in, 2015? Yeah, they had a big fire in 2015 that did not go out until it started snowing.
Wow.
Yeah, and again, there's been Bigfoot sightings there. And then the Steens Mountains, which is in the high desert region in southern Oregon. And the Steens Mountains are actually under threat right now because they found a huge lithium deposit in this very fragile desert area. And there's a big pushback of, no, we do not want to mine in this beautiful country. It would destroy the playas and everything else. But also they've had Bigfoot sightings there. And those three mountain ranges are very isolated. I think you're going to count more cattle than people where these mountains are.
Wow. I mean, Oregon and Washington, from what I've seen anyway, are very mountainous, forested areas, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yes, they are. When I was younger, this year is also beaten off the track of the paranormal, but is also known as unknown. I was younger. We stayed at a one-room cabin there in Montana at a lake. And in the mountains, there were like a bowl shape.
Yep.
I saw a big, bright white light kind of hovering, kind of going slow, and then kind of descending. But it didn't have any other lighting or anything to it. And that night, I swore I was like half asleep but not awake, seeing like alien beings looking in at me from outside in the van.
Wow.
That's what happened that night.
Yep.
But now bring it to this point, a friend of mine that lives in Portland when I was younger, he reported having a fight with his mother and then looking outside his window and seeing an alien looking at him.
Yep.
Now, this is where it gets funny. A while back when we worked at the casino, she can tell you about the flying saucer she saw.
Well, okay. I've always been really skeptical of UFOs because I grew up on military bases for the first 12 years of my life. Yep. So I've learned to recognize what's going to be jets or drones or helicopters, and I know how they move. And so a lot of times people say, oh, that's a UFO. I'm looking up and go, no, that's a jet. That's a satellite. That's a commercial aircraft because my dad taught me.
Yep.
The fun things you learn as a Navy brat.
Yep.
But one morning I was going to work at the casino and I'm taking the main freeway because that's the fastest way. And I see this weird looking cloud over the casino. And I'm like, what the hell? And I'm trying to watch traffic and I'm looking at that. And I'm watching it and it kind of changes shape a little bit, but it looks like a cloud, but it changed shape. and there's no wind. I'm like, clouds don't change shape like that. They kind of get wispy as they change. No, this thing stayed solid. And as I got near the exit, I had to take my eyes off of it to pay attention to the semi in front of me. And I look back and it's gone.
Oh,
and
wow.
And I'm like, wait a minute, clouds just don't vanish. Where'd it go? And stuff. And all the while I'm trying to get to work safely. I'm like, I even get out of my car in the parking lot and I'm like, where the hell did it go? And I'm looking up. Almost got run over because I had my eyes up in the sky.
Well,
I'm a believer in UFOs because when I was about 7, 8 years old, we lived in a house that was just out in the middle of nowhere. And I've spoken to one of my sisters who remembers it clear as I do. And it was out looking out the lounge room window one night when we were watching TV. And there's just a spacecraft sitting quite low to the ground, just sitting there with the bright lights, like everyone describes. And I still remember it so clearly.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I see it as I was traveling up to Walla Walla, Washington for a doctor's appointment. There's a wind farm on that route. I see the same UFO again. And this was also a couple of weeks after there was a big sighting over on Southgate, the other neighborhood.
And my uncle was the one that actually took a photo of it, and it was published in the newspaper here in Pendleton.
Wow. Yeah, a lot of people saw it, and again, it would change shape, disappear. And this was occurring right when we had a bunch of cattle mutilations to the
Is that me or is that P.O.P.S? Can you guys hear me or P.O.P.S? Oh, okay. Just you. P.O.P.S is frozen. Okay. We'll wait and see if they come back. No, I think they lost connection. We'll see if they'll come back. Otherwise, we'll probably end the stream. Just while we're waiting for them to come back, if there's anyone else that does paranormal or anything else, you want to come on, you want to share your channel, you want to do some paranormal stuff, send me a message, comment below on one of the videos or send me a message on Facebook because I'm going to be doing these podcasts regularly. It probably is the UFO. It came back. Don't talk about me. Stop. Yeah, I'm going to be doing these quite regularly, and, I might do some podcasts where we'll, spooky real life stories. I have a Reddit at the moment. I'm getting a lot of people to share me their real paranormal stories. So we'll be sharing those one night and giving them shout outs and stuff. No, I thought it was me at first because my internet's usually quite crappy. Anyway, make sure. I mean, most of you guys have probably gone over and checked out their channel already. If there's anyone that's watching this after, please go over and if you can give them a watch. As they said, they are relocating soon, hopefully, and they're going to be having some new areas that they can go and kind of investigate and explore. They're in a very interesting part of the world because they have hauntings, UFOs, a Bigfoot, and a bit of everything. So this might be them. Stay live. Okay, they're going to come back. All right, they'll be back in a minute. But all of you guys who have stayed with us throughout the show, the stream, thank you heaps. I haven't done this for a while, and I was so I wouldn't say terrified, but I was so nervous coming back because I haven't been live for so long. So Yeah, it was great, Pocket. Thank you. It's really interesting talking with other people. I don't know if you come in late. Jen is actually a medium, and she's got some amazing stories from experiences that she's had. And her and John, their husband and wife, and they've got some brilliant stories in their paranormal group. So, yeah, thank you, Mark and Annette. They do have a website. Everything's linked below their website, Facebook, YouTube, all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it was trying to silence them. The aliens. Shh. It's like when you see in the funny movies. Shh. Thank you, Rick. I should get you up, Rick, if you want to come up 1 week. Oh, give a shout out. Huge hugs to my beautiful niece Lizzie, who tested positive and has been sick for the last week. So if you see this, Lizzie, we love you, we're thinking of you, and we miss you, and we hope you feel better soon. Now I'm glad that you come over then, Mr. Lyons. You'll love it here. With these lives on StreamYard, Rick, I'll get it set up and then I just send you a link. So all you have to do is click on the link, put your email in, and you join me straight away. So it's really easy. Yeah, and you can come up and have a chat. We had Pendleton this week. I have Tracy from Bump in the Night next week. And then the week after that, we have Julia and Jason from Jason Ghost Hunter and Cemeteries Down Under. So, yeah, I'm free any week after that. So, I think I need a camera first. You'll probably need a camera. You probably will. Thank you, Jazzy. Look good? Oh, that's not working right now. Oh, I went out and I bought a mic for the podcast and I couldn't get it to work. So, I mean, it's not an expensive mic, but I think the problem is I need a splitter because I only have a headphone jack in my Mac computer. And they gave me a splitter and it's a cheap one and I don't think it's working properly. So I have a splitter coming this week. And hopefully I'll have a proper mic that I can actually use. So... Oh, yeah. Rick can use his phone. That's right. Why didn't I think of that? Yeah, you can connect with your phone. So, yeah. I think you can even host on StreamYard now with your phone. I think they changed it. That's all right, Rick. We'll do it in future when you set up. I'm not gonna like make you come on. Get better, Lizzie. Thank you. Yeah, Tracy's going to be good next week. I'm interested in talking to her. I think that she's going to have some really interesting stories. She said that she's looking forward to coming on and sharing, kind of why she got into the paranormal and stuff like that. So, yeah, she's going to be really interesting. Jason and Julia too. They're amazing people. Oh, I'll give it a little plug. So tomorrow at 8 p.m. I will be live on Julia and Jason's channel. So I think it's Jason. So Jason Ghost Hunter. If you have him on YouTube, we will be live tomorrow at 8 p.m. With another guest and just talking about paranormal stuff, hauntings, all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, I don't know if they're going to come back. That always scares me, that little pop. Hello.
Okay. What's really weird is every time we start talking about the cattle mutilations and UFO sightings, our internet goes.
Oh.
What?
Yeah.
We were laughing about that. We're like, they don't want us talking.
Yeah, I mean, it happens every time, considering that the last reported cattle mutilation was back in 2021.
Yeah.
In Crook County, which is near Bend, Oregon. So,
Okay.
yeah, that was the last reported cattle mutilation. So it's weird. Every time we talked about this, including a UFO group in Salem, the internet's gone cattywonkers.
That's why immediately after we lost connection, I messaged you to let you know, don't worry, we're coming back. Don't leave.
That's why I kept talking just in case.
Yeah.
We are getting more UFO sightings, though, aren't we? Like, they're becoming more open with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the advantage out here is because we don't have to go very far to escape light pollution. On a clear night, I mean, it's amazing some of the stuff you can see in the night sky. Everything from seeing satellites, if it's clear enough, to even seeing the Milky Way band.
Yeah.
It's just like when I was actually working, I happened to look up and I see those lights that look like the train, and a lot of people have reported it. Seeing it from me working and stuff, it's like, what the heck is that? Where's my... Unfortunately, I couldn't get it.
Yeah.
But then, a few days later, that meteor or whatever that crumbled in the Earth's atmosphere or whatever, I've seen that as well, at least I recorded that one.
Yeah, but the Starlink satellites, every time they went over, everyone was thinking there were UFOs and stuff. And I have an app on my phone that allows me to track constellations, where the galaxy is, all of that, because I tried to do some night photography. And I would get an alert from it saying, hey, the Starlink satellites are going overhead. And I was on Facebook and I was looking at through one of the community pages, and people were like, oh, it's UFOs, it's UFOs. And I'm just like, it's the Starlink satellites. Put the down.
Calm down. It's not a UFO.
But it was kind of cool seeing it like that. It's like, what the heck is that? Is that a train? How the heck did they get a train up there?
Yeah, and they told you it was the Starlink.
And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But damn, it looks like a train.
We lost a dog.
We always lose dogs around here.
Sorry, we have a Labradane. He's half black lab, half Great Dane.
He's on his back.
And
then we got this Chihuahua, who knows what.
This is Zoe. And
well, come here, big guy.
Bella.
This is Roscoe.
Come here, Bella.
Oh,
this
they
is
are
Bella.
Beautiful.
This is Bella. Bella is an 11-year-old border Aussie. I found her when she was 6 weeks old in the dumpster.
You're kidding.
So, someone just threw her away, and I rescued her. She's been my
now get in your chair.
Loving pup ever since. But we did actually use her on one investigation because dogs are intuitive, and she's very highly intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
She was able to pick up where activity was, and she loves children and stuff. She absolutely adores them, and she took a very protective stance in front of me because I'm mama. She wants to protect mama. And
that was at the schoolhouse.
Yeah, we used her at the schoolhouse. It did help bring some of the children out because she does have a lot of puppyish looks, but at the same time, as soon as she sensed the school teacher, she did not want anyone near the door.
Yeah. I tried to come through or go past her, and she kept trying to nudge me back in. No.
Yeah.
And we recently did an investigation. Unfortunately, we can't share that location, but we finally got those balls that light up. They're cat balls.
Yep.
And we've actually got 3. We actually tested them out, and they do actually work for the paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had one of the clients' daughters that's 17 actually do the blindfold and headphones to communicate with a spirit that was in one of the locations. And it was beside her foot, not too far, close, but far enough where nobody could mess with it. It went off multiple times within this location. She did actually mention that somebody was playing with her foot.
Oh.
The ball immediately goes off shortly after that. So there was something within this location that proves that, yes, there's activity. And it verifies on one of the eyewitnesses that there is something within this location.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
well, because when originally you bought those, there were 4, but we sacrificed one to one of our cats, and I don't know where that ball went.
it disappeared.
It'll show up in 6 months under a couch or something.
Yeah. But the reason why we sacrificed one for the cat is to see how much pressure it takes to make those things light up. If it was like super sensitive, then it might be a little too sensitive for paranormal investigation, especially if you're in an area where there's a lot of, in this case, trade traffic, because we have a pair of railroad tracks that run right through the center of town, and we see 30 trains a day, and you could feel the vibration from the trains. And it's like, if the vibration can set off the ball, then no. But we realize it does take quite a bit of force to make those light up. And so when I saw that video, it was like, yeah, it does take a lot of pressure, and her foot was not anywhere near it. So it meant that the entity, the spirit, was exerting physical pressure.
And the ball never moved from that location at all. And it's very, very hard to actually maneuver around people in that location.
Yeah.
It was like a small little aisle that about the size of one person, but a long tube.
Yeah.
And so we've used a trail cam. Most people use trail cams to see where the prey is, like a deer or elk or anything that might be wandering into their backyard. And we set one up back in the schoolhouse on our first big overnight investigation in the hallway, because I kept picking up there's a lot of activity in that hallway. Sure enough, we caught that shadow figure on the trail cam, which also confirmed the running theory is that these shadow figures have mass. Well, the way a trail cam works, it has a laser grid, and that laser has to be broken in order to trigger the camera.
Yeah.
And the fact that we got 2 photographs of it showed, and kind of helps prove with that theory that this thing has mass. This isn't a random shadow that you see from traffic passing by. This thing had mass.
But it was weird that it was caught on the trail cam, but not on the night vision cameras of the schoolhouse.
We didn't have the night vision cameras.
No, the security system. Yeah.
We didn't have them on that first investigation.
No, we didn't. But
I tell you what, though, I've got a friend in the UK who uses some of the like trail cams or body cams, and you can get them for quite a reasonable price that have night vision and continuous recording. And it's a good night vision camera to use on investigations if you can't afford a big one. Yeah.
See, we've got like 2 of those that actually we use. We also have GoPros too, but those you'll have to have a little bit of light. But there is a way you can actually rig it up for night vision.
We also have the SLS camera.
Yeah, and then the SLS camera system we also have as well. That does have night vision on it.
And we've gotten some amazing things off of the SLS camera. at the Pilot Rock Schoolhouse. I think that's where we really used it to its full advantage. We haven't used it up at the Finnish cemetery.
No.
The Finnish cemetery, it's an old cemetery dating back to the 1880s, and it was an area settled by immigrants from Finland. There's a church about a quarter mile away, and the graveyard is very, very active, and it's still in use. The most recent graves are from, 2019? Oh, no, I take that back. They buried 2 more people up there. 2 more people who died from COVID are buried up there. The church that I go to has part ownership in that because it was a Lutheran church. And back in 83, they combined that Lutheran church with the Lutheran church here to form one Lutheran church.
Mm-hmm.
So ownership was transferred. Before the pandemic, during Easter, we would actually have a sunrise service out at that old Pioneer church, which is very cool. It was just, when they say sunrise, they mean butt crack of dawn. 6 a.m., but I'm like, that's too early for me. I'll go to the 10 a.m. service.
That'd be more like me too.
But that was probably the first place we really thoroughly investigated, and we caught some amazing activity up there, including our first partial body apparition. And it was kind of cool because I was sitting in the car and I had the feeling I was being watched. So, I've always said cell phones are your best camera.
Yes.
For paranormal activity. And I used my cell phone, took a couple of pictures, and sure enough, on one of the pictures, we got a partial body apparition. And yeah, with this particular cemetery, we've had other reports of apparitions and activity, and then.
And we use this cemetery for new members to test them out to see what they find. And if they know, or if they find the same stuff we found, they could be a part of the group. And like what I've been thinking of is increasing the channel by actually, if people are like what we're doing right now, are in different countries, they still can investigate with us while we're live, but on the same channel. So this way they can still be a part of the investigation and be a part of it. And this is something I'm thinking of redoing, instead of saying, okay, everybody in Oregon that's near Pendleton can join and come on the investigations. Kind of open it up to the whole public for everybody that's like following your channel. If they subscribe to our channel, and every 100 subscribers, we will pick one lucky winner to go on an investigation with us.
Yep.
And they're like in, for an example, Australia or China or wherever. They can actually go on to what we're doing right now and investigate with us. Might help the community out a lot to kind of get the feel of how everybody does different things.
Mm-hmm. I think, I agree, because when I started years ago, I've been on YouTube. I think this is like my 5th year or something on YouTube now. And I think that the more the community stays together and kind of has para-unity, it helps everybody. And I think that live streams are a good way to grow and to get to know other channels, and you learn so much. Yeah.
And like here, like with the price of gasoline getting as high as it is, it's actually going to make a lot of travel restrictions, especially since Eastern Oregon is so much more underdeveloped than Western Oregon. When people think of Oregon, they think of Portland, and it's kind of normal that Eastern Oregon does not like Portland. Well, Portland's gotten to the point that people that live in Portland don't like Portland. It's got some serious issues, but it also allows people who've always wanted to see how an investigation works be able to see it without having to worry, how am I going to come up with $300 I'm going to need for gas to get from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. And the other reason why we use the Finnish cemetery is it's not aggressive. We know how it behaves. Mm-hmm. We know you're going to get activity no matter what. Yes, there is one spirit. I wouldn't say he's aggressive, but he gets a little pushy.
Yeah.
And his main deal is the guy who shot him is buried in the cemetery. And the cemetery is consecrated ground. So because he was not buried in the cemetery, he was buried where he was shot, he can't get in. And the guy who shot him likes to sit on his tombstone and go, nee, 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 nee. He's like, how do you see this exchange? And it's just pissing off the guy. And it comes to find out what it was the guy outside the cemetery stole horses from the guy inside the cemetery. The guy inside the cemetery shot him in the back 3 times.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, and horse thieves, typically they were either left hanging on a tree to rot, or they just put dirt over them, walked away, and that's what happened with him.
Yeah.
Because, he tried to steal the guy's horses. And it's kind of this rivalry between the two. The horse thief wants to get even with the guy who shot him. The guy who shot him is just antagonizing him.
And everybody that has actually been on investigations at that cemetery actually pick up like a heaviness in a certain location of the cemetery closest to where the horse thief was shot and killed.
Which is typically just on the outside. Because he marches along the back fence like, I'm going to get you. And he's swearing and coughing and cussing, and the guy's sitting on his tombstone laughing at him and antagonizing him.
But we also got
because you wondered why I was laughing in the car.
Yeah. But when I was actually inside with the recorder, I did actually get on the recorder over here, but in the language of Finnish. And I couldn't really understand it, so I had to get it translated, and that's what it came up with, is over here. So, and it was a woman's voice trying to get my attention. Over here, hello. They also have spirit whistle at us too.
In regard to your equipment that you use, somebody asked what kind of like a spirit box or whatever you use.
The spirit box we use is actually called the Phasma box.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually go on like
it's an app that you downloaded onto a tablet.
Oh, an app. Yep.
Yeah, it's an app. I believe it's for Windows. I believe. Mm-hmm. It works great for our group, but a lot of people use different.
Ghost Brothers uses the same app.
Yeah, Ghost Brothers uses the app. But,
and so does Kindred Spirits.
See, she's putting it all out for me. So
she knows.
Other groups use different apps that actually work better for them. So one of the devices we use is the Phasma box.
Mm-hmm.
I recently downloaded another one on my cell phone. I can look up the name real quick.
Well, it's one that you're...
SCD3. You can actually download it on your cell phone, any Android. And it's similar to a Phasma box.
Mm-hmm.
You may have to pay like $3-4 for it, but it's better than anything to start off with.
Yeah.
Now, if you want a good recorder or EMF app to use, download the free app of WavePad. You can actually do the recording and live session, and then go over it live to find out if you caught any disembodied voices.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was one of my ones that I do have still on my phone today.
And you have WavePad on the laptop, and you use the acoustic software, Acoustica?
No, I got rid of that because WavePad's free, and you can do the same thing as Acoustica.
Okay.
So WavePad works the best.
Yeah, but you were also using Acoustica at one time to analyze the EVPs.
Right.
Which also worked really well. It's a pretty expensive app.
Yeah.
For photos that we suspect have, maybe partial body apparitions or stuff, because I'm a photographer, I have my own studio called Wayfaring Photography Studio.
Mm-hmm.
So that means I have Photoshop.
Yep.
Because I need Photoshop for my editing, so I can run those photos through Photoshop to see, has this been manipulated? If they used a filter or anything, because it's digital, it's going to give me a record of what camera took the picture, what were the settings. Also, I can remove filters and add my own. I can manipulate the photo, and I think we've done that with one that was supposedly of a shadow figure. Turned out it was not 3D, it was flat. And so when we went back to look, it was actually because of a tree.
Sorry.
Which that explained it, but I think we've run into a few others that I actually ended up finding out they manipulated the photo to try to say, well, see, look, it's paranormal. No, you've heavily manipulated this to make it look what you believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that in my Photoshop, because you cannot hide those types of changes with Adobe.
It's so funny, because I'm on TikTok as well. And there was one woman that I found on TikTok once, and she went viral for this video. And it's not that I go over there to, start issues or anything, but when you see something that is clearly doctored and they're telling people that it's real and you can see it's not. So I put a comment on there and I said, look, I love the community you're bringing together. I said, but I feel like this has been touched up and doctored. And it was of a leaf that was kind of falling down, and then it would dance around and then move down and then it come back up from the ground and that. But you could see where it had disappeared and you could see the edit lines around it and that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got attacked big time just for putting that one comment there.
That reminds me, there's a lady that lives on the coast, which one of my our members is in Roseburg, Oregon, not too far away. She actually was on one of the shows of the Ghost Brothers, which is kind of cool. She's been having a lot of activity from her home, and they do have an app on the TikTok where it does that rainbow figure. The show, that has a A lot of people say, "Oh, it's fake. It doesn't really work." But she's also caught shadow figures on the second floor in the window, and there's nothing there. She sent it to me, and I posted it on YouTube, but I blocked her name out, so that's the only edited part I did, was block her name out for privacy.
Yep.
But that video is there for the public to see, to get her answers on what it could be. And you can actually see there was no way for her editing it, because the way it looked. Yes, it's on TikTok, but it's legit. Just like her other videos that she sent me, but she took off because they used it for the Ghost Brothers, and she can't share that to the public for over a year. So we understand that.
Yeah, I think the way that, like, I've had a discussion with heaps of people about apps and filters and things like that, and I think that spirit has the ability to manipulate anything that is kind of electronic. Now, there's going to be a lot of fake stuff out there, but there's going to be real stuff too. Do you know what I mean? Like there's and that particular filter as well works a lot like the SLS, where it maps humanoid kind of shapes. And if you've got a window and there's nothing in that window and it's mapping a human shape, that's got to make you question about what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Hang on, I just got to let the cat out. Keep talking.
All right.
Yeah, it's just you have to be really careful with apps.
Man.
And like one of my ghost hunting apps, and I've had this one for years.
Somebody did actually mention it was the filter.
Reality Ripple.
Yeah, Reality Ripple.
Yeah.
It's the app.
Yeah.
And that's the one she actually sent to me, showing about the paranormal. She did actually hear different disembodied voices and stuff. But the one that she used, I can't really tell much about it, but it was actually like something peeking in through the window from outside.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but she's also, I believe, she's near the harbor there in that town. So, because harbors can change shape, and this one is not like the one in Coos Bay, because the one in Coos Bay is taken care of really well because the commercial fishing fleet is there. But in that one, it's all basically people who own their own boats, so it's not as well maintained. And I've looked in the history, and she's in the area where they had pirates show up. So it kind of makes me wonder if she's in that southern edge of where they had pirate ships.
Probably would have to talk to her member about that.
Yeah, but if she's seen shadow figures on the second floor, that makes me, how close was she to the original harbor line? And is it maybe related to the tall ships? Because they would have to climb the mast. And the mast on these is huge.
Would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, because remember, Coos Bay was settled by shipwreck survivors. And Coos Bay area is known for having massive shipwrecks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you get further north to where that client is, all the way up towards Tillamook, that whole line of coastline, pirates had been there. And supposedly at Manzanita Beach, a particular pirate did bury treasure there, and Manzanita Beach has crazy amount of paranormal activity.
And I do have, you heard of those thermal imaging cameras where you see the heat and stuff?
Yeah.
They actually have some that you can actually buy from Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a little expensive, but not too bad for your cell phones, and they work the same.
Yep.
We've got one as well. And when one of our members at one of the investigations we were doing at the beginning of the month used, the battery just drained quick. So it you got to make sure it's fully charged and, not like constantly let it run.
Yeah.
But you can actually record it and then download it and then check it out later to see if you caught anything. But using that plus the night vision cameras, you get a lot more. Plus the cell phones work too, and a lot of different apps that, like the ripple effects.
Yep.
On TikTok, you can use those and actually record it and share it. Those are actually excellent apps to use. And like the WavePad is a very good app to get EVPs and then go over at the same time.
Well, don't forget my ghost hunting tools, because we've used that app and it's been consistent for the last 5 years. Now, what it does is it acts as like you'll get one words, mostly one word from it, and it can act as a detection for if spirits come close. But when I use it, what I like to do is I like to put my cell phone in airplane mode, which cuts it off from cell signals. So this way nobody can say, well, it just picked up a cell signal. That's all it did. Well, not if it's in airplane mode. But we've gotten some phrases, some words. It's been fairly accurate. It's not like the Phasma box where we can get complete sentences. But it was one of the main apps I've used, and I've run it through the ringer, and I like it. It's just I have used it at the schoolhouse, and within 15 minutes, my battery, which was at 95%, was down at 55%.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's all those that use like iPhones or iPads or whatever. They also have different apps you can use off of there as well.
Yeah.
I downloaded them from the app. It's actually from the Ghost Stop app store. It's the Buddy Lite app for the iPhone or iPad, and it does what the Buddy or the Boo Buddy does. The Ovilist.
Yeah, I've tried the Ovilus. I don't like it.
Well, we have one downloaded, to see if we can get anything. And it just says random things. It's like mall, dog, fish.
Do you get bacon all the time? I always get bacon.
Bacon?
Bacon. Yeah. It just says bacon all the time.
I think that app is kind of iffy.
Yeah.
Because, but when you have the real device, it might be a lot different.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, the Phasma box has been very accurate. Ghost Hunting Tools acts as a little bit of a backup.
Yeah. And that's the one I normally use because we've actually caught fire, attic, roof, kids in walls.
Yeah. Then we've also had really good luck with the SLS. And we're still playing with that. Trying to get. Yeah, we like to run new tools through the ringer. The REM pod, we did find a slight flaw with the REM pod, and it's just because of how Pendleton is. Like I said, we got a double set of railroad tracks that run right through the middle of town. Poor planning, and typically when we have a traffic backup, it's because there's a train going through town.
Yep.
But what we've noticed is that the REM pod would go off if we were near railroad tracks because it's picking up that vibration from the trains. So when Most Haunted Towns is here, where they were at in the underground, where their REM pod kept going off, was actually near the main street right across from the post office. And at the time that they were down there filming is the time that the post office starts getting the semi-trucks coming in. They come in late at night because it's a really weird back that they have to do. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, if we can get a REM pod going off by being near railroad tracks, then that REM pod's going off because I bet you anything at that exact time there's a semi up there trying to back in to the post office.
Yeah, so there's a connection there.
Like at the Planet Rock Schoolhouse, how it was on the little barrel thing in the hallway.
Well, John, there was nothing there to cause vibration. Right. So
the vibration would actually set it off.
So that's something you have to think of with REM pods is the location. If you're in an area where you can feel that vibration, it's going to throw your investigation off.
Yeah.
Because with my dad's help, we actually debunked a problem in the Columbia Gorge. The Columbia Gorge has a lot of wind farms, and it's because the Columbia Gorge is extremely windy. God, every time we go to Portland, we're driving into a 30-mile-an-hour headwind. This one particular wind farm has been there since 2005. And every time I drove through there, I would get headaches. My dad, who's an engineer, who actually works for the company that owns that wind farm, I was explaining to my dad, I said, Dad, I'm not the only one who gets this. Mom would get it. A lot of other people complained about it. My dad, being an engineer, was like, well, I wonder if it's ultrasonic noise. Brought it up on Google Maps so he could actually see what it looked like. He sees the wind farm. On the Washington side is another wind farm. You have an interstate next to the river, you have a state road next to the river on the Washington side and railroad tracks on both sides. In the Columbia Gorge, because it was carved out by the Missoula Ice Age floods, it's square shaped. It's not U-shaped like most gorges are, which were caused by glaciers. And my dad said, it's ultrasonic noise. The noise from the traffic and the wind farms and the wind and everything else, it's bouncing off of the walls.
Ah.
People are so sensitive to ultrasonic noise, it will make them feel restless. It would give them headaches.
Mm-hmm.
It just interferes with everything. And as soon as my dad debunked that, I'm like, wait a minute, John, we need to pay more attention to the word pad. So a lot of times we'll do initial walkthroughs, and yeah, we'll take the recorders, and what we're looking for is, are we picking up any ultrasonic noise?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are a lot of wind farms around here. That was something we got warned about from my dad, is that sometimes these wind farms, especially the big ones, there will be a little bit of ultrasonic noise.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, well, now that explains it.
Yeah, see, I love that. I love it when I hear people go into a location and you'll take base readings of everything. You take base readings with your EMF, you look for other factors in the environment, and once you've considered every scientific fact and there's none of them, then you look at the paranormal side of things.
Yeah.
When I first started, I thought everything was paranormal, and she's like, nothing is always paranormal. There's always an explanation behind it. I was like, show me, and she's like, this is how you can tell. Go into this room, okay? What's it feel like? Cold. Is there a window open? No. Is there cracks? Through the floor. You're feeling the cold from underneath the building.
Yep.
I did that too in my mom's house. My mom's house was built in 1900. And what was really cool about it is if you went down into the basement, you can see the original logs that they used to build this house. And, I lived in that house for a couple of years. And so I know the house will make noise. It gets drafty. So I had to teach him with my mom's house. It's like, well, I feel a cold breeze. There must have been a spirit go through. And I go, which way's the wind blowing? Yeah, the wind's working its way through the house. It's an old house. I even had to explain to him, now this is slang in Indiana. In Indiana, because we have so many old homes, a lot of times we talk about the houses talking. Mm-hmm. And what we mean by house talking is that it's settling. You get the thermal displacement.
The pops, the creaks, the bangs,
My grandpa's house, which was built in 1842, was notorious for talking, especially at night. And what it is, and I did warn John before we stayed out there, is I told John, the staircase will talk. It'll sound like somebody's walking on it. But pay attention, because there's a certain step when somebody walks on it, it creaks a certain way. But when the house is talking, that step will not creak. And John actually got to hear my grandpa's house talk at night. It's cooled down, the wood's creaking, popping, it's adjusting with the humidity. And sure enough, you could hear the stairs doing it. And at first it's like, is somebody out there? And I go, I'm listening and go, nope. If somebody was out there, we would have heard that one step. It's just the house talking. And that is something I've had to explain to people when they say, well, I'm hearing knocks, that it's demonic. And they go, no, houses talk. It's settling. You get thermal displacement. This year was really bad for thermal displacement. Our summer was unbearably hot. It actually got to 115 degrees.
Jeez.
For a week. I mean, it was so bad the asphalt was melting and they were having to water the roads. Our apartment, the building was built in 1979. It's the same age as me. And sure enough, this apartment would talk. And it wasn't our neighbors. Our neighbors are noisy as hell, but I don't think they were here that week because I think their air conditioner quit.
Well, my mom keeps hearing knocks and stuff at her place. And like, Mom,
it's a trailer.
It's a trailer. It's going to pop and it's going to creak. And she's only hearing 3 knocks. You know,
and it's on the sunny side of the trailer.
Yeah, it's always on the back. It's always on the back by my room, Mom. The trailer's going to pop and creak and moan. Don't worry, it's not going to come out and eat you alive. Well, actually, it did eat you alive because you live in it.
Well, then the other thing too was when people first talk about scratching in walls. My first instinct is, have you had an exterminator come out and look? Because, you know, with this town being surrounded by wheat fields, and we do have a flour mill in the town, mice are a problem. Even where I work, which is a block away, we actually had mice in our office building.
Mm-hmm. I know. I just saw that too. That was so coincidental. You just start talking about mice, and Daniel said that he has rats in his roof.
Like, that's what I saw too. It's like, wow.
Yeah,
mice, rats.
Yeah. And you know, I've seen that even with Amy Allen, Steve Buscetti has had exterminators come out to look for rodent signs inside a client's home because, you know, it is something to look at. If people are saying, well, I'm hearing scratching and growling, get an exterminator out. One home in my hometown, they kept talking about hearing buzzing and rustling in the walls. And I told them, well, get an exterminator to come out. Well, they got an exterminator who came out, who then later called me and my grandpa because they had a bee's nest in the wall. And my grandpa and I were beekeepers. And so we came out and got the bee's nest and, you know, added it to our bee yard. But it was a huge bee's nest. And the one was like, oh, you're the one I talked to about paranormal activity. And I'm looking at the nest in the wall and I go, and what was it? She goes, yeah, but he still had to come out. And I go, yeah, because I'm a beekeeper.
There's a question there. Do motion sensors have false positives?
Yeah, they can have false positives.
Yep.
Wind can trigger them. Dust. Around here, if you have one outside, it's going to be a tumbleweed more than likely.
Yeah, because my mom's got one. And you're going to see dust flying through. I installed some security cameras to her place that kind of keep an eye on her car. It recently got stolen, but she got it back. But I put a motion sensor light up. And then cameras. On the cameras, you can see dust flying around, and then boom, the motion light comes on. So, yeah, it does happen.
Indoors as well, do you think?
Huh?
What about if you had motion sensors indoors? Say you were doing an investigation, you had them inside.
My first thought is, are there any animals?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because John, come on, even our cats have triggered things, and we have 3 cats, and sometimes I refer to them as furry little assholes.
It depends on motion sensors. If you have them on the floor, people walking around, yes, it will set them off by any kind of movement. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a hit and miss depending on the structure and where the motion sensors are located.
Yeah, but you got to start with the most obvious. Are there any animals in the home? Because pets, especially cats, will trigger them. Yeah. If there's no animals, then you need to start looking at possible rodent activity. Because even a house mouse can trigger it. And if there is no rodents, then you start looking at Did a vent blow something? Is there a lot of dust coming through the vents because they're dirty? Or did a vent, enough air pressure come up to maybe cause something move to trigger it?
They're talking about those, like my little handheld motion sensors with the little.
But John, still.
But yeah.
Yeah, you still have to eliminate that. Because like in our apartment, we have no air vents.
No.
So if we had a motion sensor light go off, my first thought is going to be the frickin' cats. And it's usually one, and that's the 15-pound tuxedo named Boots. Or Buddy Boots, as we call them. But, start with the obvious, work down.
Yeah. Cut out the environmental factors and all of that, and then go from there.
Yeah, because in the summer, because we get fans going to help blow the AC around, if a motion sensor light were to go off in here, and let's say it was not the cats, was not the dogs, then I'm going to be looking at the fans, because I also have plants. So my first thought is, did a leaf blow through to trigger it? Did the fan blow something off? And then, like, when people start claiming about electrical problems, I always tell them, get an electrician.
Yeah, check your lines. Yep.
Yeah, because that's going to be my first thought, because wiring does get old. A house that was built in 1990, while it's considered a young home, the wiring then was done for 1990 technology, not for 2022 technology.
Yep.
So it could be that your smart TV and your internet and all these devices might be overloading your circuitry a little bit.
Yep.
Like our cat balls have their motion sensors. If you put them on the floor and they go off, it could be from vibration from something going by.
Well, in this apartment, I'm going to first blame the neighbors, because God forbid they control their kids.
Yeah.
Sorry, our neighbors upstairs, it's a case where we have a mom who doesn't want to be a mom, and every night I have to listen to her daughter bang her feet on the party wall. Because her daughter's a little brat and wants to ride a hoverboard inside the apartment, but that causes even more issues for me. And it's like, no, can't have that. So testing things for vibration, see how sensitive they are, works great considering how noisy our neighbors are.
It depends on home. Yeah, the motion sensors like the cat balls or whatever, is a good test to see if it will go off if you just kind of tap from far away.
Well, and seeing how hard it took for Boots had to literally smack it to really get it to light up. It wasn't like he could just touch it with a finger, lightly paw it would go up. No, he had to smack it. So,
give it a good whack.
Yeah. He's a big cat. Like I said, he's 15 pounds. He's a big boy. And
I'll be right back.
He was actually abandoned at 6 months, and we took him in. So pretty much all our animals are rescues.
That's a good thing, though. It means that you're giving, less fortunate animals a home when they probably wouldn't have had one otherwise.
Yeah, in fact, our Labrador, he was supposed to be a foster, but when it was discovered he had food allergies, we ended up keeping him because nobody wanted to deal with it. He has very severe allergies to wheat, corn, and soy. So he is on a specialized diet. Yep, here. Oh, hi, how you doing here? And it was also found out this year he has a little bit of a heart murmur and a slightly enlarged heart.
Oh.
A cousin of mine who's a vet also confirmed that because he weighs 95 pounds and he's obviously mixed with a large lab with a Great Dane. Large labs and Great Danes have heart trouble. She says right now we'll be lucky if he makes it till 10.
That's sad.
Yeah, eventually his heart's going to give out. But he does have some behavioral issues because we've had neighbors that were involved with drugs attack him when he was
Okay.
so he's got a little bit of a complex.
Yeah.
And some people have asked me, well, because you're a medium, you have all this activity, how do your animals handle it? I go, they ignore it. They've grown up with it. They could care less.
Yeah.
They're used to it. And I also have a rule in the home with the dead that they are not to harm or harass the animals. If they do, I'm whipping out the sage or the Palo Santo and I'm banishing them from my home.
Yeah, you got to put your foot down and set your intentions. I do that here too. Like every now and again, especially after I've been somewhere, I might see one, wander around for a couple of days here or there. Just walk past while I'm in the kitchen or something. And eventually they go because they know that they can't stay and they're not welcome,
Yeah. We do have a little girl that's here now. I found her down in the downtown area. She died of tuberculosis, and I brought her here. But she's very protective of the cats, and usually where the cats are, she's there. Talking about Charlotte.
No, yeah.
And
I recently bought her a haunted doll.
Yeah, kind of one of the.
I'll bring her out in a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little porcelain doll.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm trying to get this going, but this here is the cat ball.
Yep. My doll likes playing with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you trying to get the Phasma box? Yep.
Right there is the name. Whoop, sorry.
It's all right. It went, no.
No, go somewhere else. I don't want you.
I'm sure it was the Phasma box I've heard of a couple of other people use, and they like it. It seems to be quite popular. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. We've actually gotten direct answers through it when we've asked questions. When we were at the schoolhouse and I kept hearing a husband and wife arguing in the background. And that is something we've picked up on the recorders. Is this husband and wife arguing. And then even I got addressed by name through it. So somebody really wanted my attention.
Big time.
Yeah. Well, even you've been called by name.
Yeah.
I think the weirdest EVP he got was, "Hey, John, you're back."
And that was down in the tunnels. Yeah, Daniel, I'm trying to get it loaded for you so you can actually see what it looks like. It does cost a little bit of money. It's actually called the Phasma box.
Oh, Phasma box.
Yeah.
I think I said it wrong.
As if it wants to load.
It's Phasma.
Oh, there it is. Phasma box. With a PH. Phasma box.
Well, right now it's loading.
And sometimes that tablet takes a while.
Yeah. It has Windows 10 on it, so it makes sure it's Windows compatible for Windows 10 or what kind of Windows it is. It works all the time with our investigations. You can actually go to like your closest Walmart or whatever store sells headphones for like Xboxes and stuff. Get a pair of those. They're called turtle beaches or similar to what you're wearing.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah.
Put those on. You can get a sleeping mask or whatever that blind somebody. Turn it on and
that's one of my favorite experiments. I've had so many good responses with that experiment. So good. Yeah.
On Kindred Spirits, Adam and Amy do that a lot.
Do they?
One of them will have a sleep mask and the headphones.
Yep. That is gaining popularity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you're going to hear that. But that's what it looks like when it's running.
It's very cool looking.
Yeah, we're getting a little bit of activity through it, which is kind of normal for our apartment.
I don't know if you heard that.
I heard someone talking not long after we started the stream. That wasn't you two.
Get a mic.
Well, you got someone telling you how to run things.
Is there anybody here? You hear the yeah?
Yeah.
Just heard a little girl.
Charlotte, are you here? People want to hear you if you want to.
Is that a very clear hello?
Yeah. But I do need to kind of charge it up more. That's enough? Okay.
Okay, that sounds like my mom.
It must be for Android, is it?
Windows 10.
Yeah, so it's Android. Yep. Yeah. So it's not on iPhone. That's probably why I don't have it.
Yeah, if you got like a laptop or a desktop,
Windows compatible tablet would work because that's what everyone's been using is the Windows.
Anything
compatible.
Windows would work.
Yeah.
So that's a good app to use that we've actually used multiple times on our investigations. So, but let me bring out.
We'll have a look at your doll, and then I'll probably have to finish it up because I've got little ones. I've got to go and get ready for dinner and school tomorrow.
Yeah.
We've had a good stream though. We've been on for almost 3 hours.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Other than our internet gone kaput, and here he comes with the doll.
That was UFOs.
Doll.
Oh, isn't that dainty? Oh, she's beautiful.
Her name's Isabella.
That's what Charlotte named her.
Oh. One of my children is named Charlotte. One of my twin girls.
Yeah. Well, like I said, Charlotte I found down near our main street. She was in close proximity to a negative spirit.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel comfortable with her staying down there, so I brought her here. She's been here for a couple of years. Children are sometimes, you can't cross them over immediately. It takes a long time. But I did get that she died from tuberculosis because she kept saying, I died of consumptive. And tuberculosis was known as consumption, so I think she was mispronouncing it. And I get she was about 8 to 9 years of age. So, and she died in the 1890s, is what I was getting, just by her dress. And that was during the height of a TB epidemic in the United States at the time. So, you know,
after you said she died in the 1890s, I think you could hear, yeah. There was a yes after you said that.
Yeah, she really likes the little doll Isabel. And we do have it in a case with a lock on it, because again, cats.
Yeah.
I love my cats, but some days it's like I threaten to shave them.
It's like their children. Oh.
Yes. Especially since one of them has proven he likes to open up a drawer. So we're going to have to get a child safety lock to keep him out of the drawer. I hate pulling out clean kitchen towels that are just covered in cat hair. But like I said, Charlotte has been here since what, 2019?
Mm-hmm.
So about 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She loves the cats. She's very protective of them. She's also the only ghost allowed in our bedroom. Because the cats sleep with us. In fact, all the animals sleep in the bedroom, so that's fine. And there was one time when I came home from the Pilot Rock Schoolhouse, something followed me, something very negative. It couldn't get into the building because I have the building protected.
Mm-hmm.
But it was scary. And I started reciting the Lord's Prayer, and I was having a little trouble remembering the Lord's Prayer. That's how I knew this was something nasty. But I was sitting on the bed, and I felt Charlotte come by and jerk my ankle, letting me know she was scared. And eventually what it was gave up because it could not come inside the house.
Yeah.
Which I was thankful for. But that was the one time she's touched me. John doesn't usually get home till like 3 o'clock in the morning, and he's seen her in the bedroom a few times.
Yeah.
I'm sleeping. She's sitting on the bed petting the fluffy cat wherever she went to. We have a very fluffy cat named Kiki.
But anyways, I was just looking on eBay and Amazon and stuff, and she's like, give me a doll. And the only thing that popped in was haunted. And I'm like, why haunted? Oh, all right. And then this comes up and she goes, that one. I can hear her saying that to me, even though I don't see her. I feel her kind of like pointing at it, going, that one, that one, that one, that one.
Yep.
Well, we have another one on its way from
same vendor.
Yeah, the same vendor, but a different model or type. Yep. This one is wearing a blue outfit with checkered plaid dress.
Not a walking doll, is it?
No.
These are typically they're porcelain dolls.
Porcelain.
Yeah.
The other one is a haunted porcelain vessel.
Okay.
Yeah, I know porcelain dolls get a kind of a bad rap as being haunted, but you got to remember these were the toys that little girls like Charlotte would have had. They would have had these porcelain dolls. So it makes sense that a child would be attached to it, especially a little girl. And, if people tend to forget just how many children died from diseases that we have vaccines for nowadays.
Yes.
Like scarlet fever, typhoid, cholera, tetanus, diphtheria, measles. Measles is huge. And, when I run into with Charlotte, she died from tuberculosis. We didn't have antibiotics back then. And it's just
it wasn't until the mid-1900s really we had proper medicines.
We did not have a cure for tuberculosis until the 1950s, which was the use of antibiotics. And that's why it's not uncommon to find insane asylums that were once TB hospitals. You find those here in the U.S., in Europe, there in Australia. I've heard of a few there in Australia with mass activity. And people just don't know, because I have also have a degree in history. TB killed a lot of people in its day. You know, and it's sad that, you know, here we have a little girl that died from TB.
Yeah, she's over here kind of leaning against me like,
I know, because you're holding her doll.
I know, my side is a little sore because she's leaning against me. I feel her pressure.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put her back.
It's her doll. You know.
Yeah.
She'll follow you.
I know.
But, you know, Charlotte is one of 2 ghosts I've purposely picked up and brought here to work with to eventually cross over. Another one was named as William. He is still kind of lingering a little bit, but he's closer to his wife now because he's trying to get his wife to cross over.
Yeah.
And because he wants to cross over with her. And then, of course, there's Charlotte. I did come across one woman. Now, she was known as the Weeping Woman, and she died very tragically. She was tricked into prostitution. She was seduced at 16, ran away from home, and was forced into prostitution by her so-called boyfriend. When she did manage to escape him, she went back home. Her family threw her out on the street and disowned her. So she ended up back under control of her pimp. She became pregnant, had a back alley abortion, and then hemorrhaged to death.
Oh, wow.
And I could not bring her home because her energy was just a little much, being so sad. But I picked her up and took her to my church and dropped her off at my church. So for about a year, there were problems with activity in my church of a woman weeping. But eventually that turned out to be a good thing, being at the church.
Yeah.
Because she was able to forgive herself, and it was actually in the middle of Easter service, she crossed over.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So
yeah.
like, you've crossed over. Thank you.
All right. We might finish it up. I've got to get off and get my kitties fed for dinner and stuff. We're at about 6 p.m. here, and you guys must be on midnight.
Yeah. Just about.
Yeah, about that. But I want to say a huge thank you to both of you for coming on and chatting with us. I've been sharing your link throughout the stream. So if anyone comes over at the end of the stream, hi, Sam. Please go over, check out P.O.P.S, channel and subscribe if you can. They've got some great videos over there, and hopefully we'll get to speak with you guys again soon one day. It'll be good.
And
all right.
Don't worry about the stories and stuff I have on there right now. It's trying to do something different during the winter until we get more cases. Once we get more cases, it'll go back to live videos and stuff. So it's little like scary stories, cryptids, they're little stories. I have a software I'm using and just letting people kind of hear different stories until we get back to doing cases and stuff. So
yeah,
I think it's a nice change too to kind of have in there while while you're getting your stuff together. Yeah. So yeah.
I just want everybody that shows up there not to worry. If you like them or stuff, give me ideas or something, feel free. Yep. We're not going to judge you and say, oh, no, I'm not taking you. If you give us ideas or something, to kind of help boost the ratings or something, we'll have you a part of it, and figure something out to make the channel better, and all your suggestions would work, Yeah. And the other thing is if I do shout outs and stuff using the wheel of names, and your name will be added on there. Just let me know in a video, say, hey, I subscribed, and your name will be on there. Every name and every 100 subscribers that we get, they will go on an investigation just like this, what we're doing now, but also on an investigation live with us along with a free shirt from us.
There you go, guys.
So
Go over there, subscribe.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody also heard of Nubs. I know we met through Nubs's YouTube 101 page.
Yep.
And this is how we met. And I kind of helped Nubs out and kind of nibbled when he was lower than me. And now he's got more subs than I do. And
It happens.
I'm so proud of him moving where he's at today.
Nubs is a great guy.
Yeah. So if you haven't subscribed to Nubs too, go and check him out too.
Yep, and check out, YouTube 101 if you're on Facebook. It's a great group. Definitely.
Yeah, so if you want people to follow or you want to share your videos, check YouTube 101 out. Great group of friends, people to get to know, hang out, share your videos, share your stories. We do it all the time. So
Yep.
Sounds good. All right, guys, we're going to go and, we'll see you at the next podcast. See you later.
Bye. Bye.
And
bye.